Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. We're going to have a couple of videos today, and I'm going to first introduce some news for you and a message from the Tea Party Patriots, plus upcoming events. I'm going to announce some upcoming events that you need to be aware of. So. Hey, it's good to be back. It's a nice, cool 108 degrees in Sahuarita, Arizona right now. And we are 2.5 miles from downtown Metropolis. So we're doing fine. We've been real busy the last 3 or 4 weeks, and but it's good to be back talking with you folks. And I sure hope a lot of you joined us tonight. We're going to start out with Tea Party Patriots news, and the Tea Party Patriots, and I think I've talked about this before, they have a project going on, and it's about mailing cards, get out the vote cards to people in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin who voted for President Trump in 2016. And this kind of rally the troops kind of thing. And here's what the cards look like. I'm going to hold one up here for you. You can see it says the All-American President. Beautiful card, large postcard. And all we have to do is write a message on the back of this card. They're already addressed, they're numbered, and they're ready to go. We'll send these back to Tea Party Patriots, and they will put a stamp on them and mail them out to the voters at specific times before the election. So they've got it all planned. All we have to do is write a message, a personal message on these cards. And for instance, my name is, address it to the person on the card. This person's first name in Wisconsin is Austin, the card that I showed you, and you say, "Dear Austin, we hope that you will continue to support President Trump and you will vote for him in November." And or you can really say whatever you want to say to him. We want to get these folks back voting again. So a lot of these people did not vote in previous elections for several cycles, so they're being targeted. And without that vote for those folks, President Trump would not have won Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So that's the goal. And again, here's the card. The All-American President, picture of President Trump. Beautiful card, front of the Capitol. So I hope that some of you will volunteer to help us out. We've got, I think we've got about 500 cards. So anyway, we'll be working on that. And we'd love for some of you folks to help us out with it. So what else is going on in this area? Well, the Republican Club of Green Valley, Sahuarita is putting together a 4th of July caravan and a walk. And this will run from the post office in Sahuarita around through past the Rancho Sahuarita Clubhouse and back up to La Cañada and over to Duval Mine Road, across the freeway to Abrego, and then on to Esperanza and back to the Republican office. And there they will have a planned walk. This is called the Stand Up and the Number 4 America Caravan and Walk, and it's to support America, our law enforcement, President Trump, and trying to negate the mainstream message that this is a racist country, because we don't truly believe it is a racist country. And anyway, that's the 4th of July. I don't want to call it an event because it's really a demonstration. It's a peaceful demonstration of, and we hope that all of you can join us on that date. And then on July 14th, the Republican Club is going to have a live interview with Martha McSally, Senator Martha McSally from Washington, D.C. and the LD2 president, Kathleen Wishnick, will interview her. And she's going to do all that on GoToMeeting at her request. So, and this will also be an ice cream social plus cake. So it'll be a fun time. You can come at 4:30 and it goes till 7. And it'll be at the Continental Plaza over by the Safeway on Continental Road, back in the northwest corner. There's a 2-story building, and in the back corner of that building is conference room 203. And that's where you go for the ice cream social and the interview with Martha McSally. And a little added treat, we've asked Anthony Sizer to speak as a candidate for District 2 Pima County Supervisor, running against incumbent Ramon Valdez. Of course, that depends if Valdez gets through his primary. So, and then coming up on August 8th is a congratulations party for the candidates, candidates that win the primary. On August 4th, we welcome them to come to the office, the headquarters of the RCGVS, which is in the Green Valley Village. You can go to their website at repclubgvs.org and get the address, but it's in the Green Valley Village. And that'll be a little celebration for the winning candidates. And then coming up in September, the plan right now is to have the roundup at the Desert Diamond Casino. And there's a lot of logistics that still have to be worked out, and they're working on some things because of the virus concerns. Anyway, we'll have more to announce about that later on in the summer. But there'll be many more people, larger venue, and should be a really fun time. That's September 26th, so mark it down on your calendar and keep that date open. And now, without further ado, I'm going to start this video of Jesse Waters, who works for Fox News, and he had a great interview. This was just a few weeks ago, and I've wanted to get this on for some time. Talking about opening up the country and the economy. So I'm going to start that now for you folks, and so stand by here.
By definition, have underlying diseases and are old.
They ignore the facts to keep us locked down. They're either scared, dumb, or have a political agenda. So Dr. Scott Atlas is here tonight. He's the former chief of neuroradiology at Stanford University Medical Center, and he's a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, and he's going to tell us the 5 key facts about corona that will lift this lockdown. All right, doctor, you have the first key fact. The overwhelming majority of people don't have any significant risk of dying from COVID-19. Tell us more about that.
The lockdown is really against all evidence and, frankly, common sense. The first fact is the data shows that the fatality rate is far less, probably 1/10 or even lower than what was originally estimated. And that data comes from all over the world and all over the United States. And in fact, there's something even more striking about it. The fatality rate is very, very low, extremely low if you're under 60. And that is new data, really, that has just come in from all over Europe on good studies. In fact, the reality is, and you get shamed for saying it, for people under 60, the fatality rate is less than or equal to the common flu. The second fact, really, is that we know who to protect. And this is really critical, because this is a serious illness, and it's very dangerous for certain people. Older people, particularly those with chronic diseases, like specifically diabetes, kidney failure, heart failure, and other immunocompromised people. That fact, by the way, is not new knowledge. That's something that every medical student in the country would have known from day one, because that's the same group that gets a really bad illness from other viral respiratory infections. But be that as it may, we see that our politicians have not put in place the obvious restrictions on who to protect. That is, people in nursing homes who by definition have underlying diseases and are old. And we're seeing in some states more than half, sometimes up to 80% of deaths in nursing homes. This is really a really inexcusable lack of common sense in basic public policy. Okay, the third fact.
Yeah, and that was a total catastrophe in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And it just hasn't really been covered. So the third thing is you talk about immunity. Tell us about population immunity.
Sure. Well, I mean, by isolating every single person and avoiding all human contact, you have literally prevented the best mechanism to establish population immunity. Because when we get infected with a virus like this, we generate antibodies, and those antibodies are protective. And what happens is when low-risk groups, which 99% of people, by the way, have no significant problem when infected, 99%, including 50% where no symptoms whatsoever. When you get immunity and low-risk groups infect each other, there's a blockage of sort of the pathways to the vulnerable. This is called herd immunity. And we have already proven that that's been interfered with by testing people to see how many people have antibodies. It's very low, even though the disease is highly contagious. And if you don't believe in herd immunity, by the way, then you would never believe in any vaccine, because vaccinations are given with that specific reason, to establish antibodies in people and establish population immunity.
That's right. And then you also mentioned in fact 4 that a lot of people are dying because they're not going to the hospital to get the medical care they need for things other than COVID-19. That's hugely underreported.
This is really critical. The policy itself is killing people. The policy of lockdown and total isolation has impaired and stopped most medical care. 150,000 new cases of cancer every month in the U.S. occur, and we're not making those diagnoses. 2/3 of people who have a cancer screening test aren't getting it. Half of people on chemotherapy aren't going in. Acute heart attacks and strokes are not calling for emergency help, and they are dying. And the worst of all ironies is that 2/3 of immunizations in California, this is the data, 2/3 of childhood immunizations are being skipped. We are creating a massive catastrophe in healthcare and killing people by this very policy.
I mean, it's just unbelievable how the politicians don't look at the new data and then make different decisions. I understand the initial social mitigation, but after the data comes in, you got to move. Lastly, fact 5, I mean, we know who to protect. This should have been targeted towards the elderly, towards the sick, and then that should have been the policy. I'll give you the last word.
And that's exactly what to do now, is we strictly isolate and protect the people in the nursing homes with required testing. We do some prioritized testing that is necessary to make sure that hospitals don't continue infections. And we tell mildly ill people to isolate. And then we open schools. We open businesses and offices and restaurants with the necessary hygiene and sanitization standards and warnings in place. But society must function. The cure here is worse than the original disease at this point.
All right, Dr. Atlas, I hope every governor is watching Water's World tonight and gets to hear these 5 key facts. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it. Here, the data's in.
Okay, folks, I apologize for the delay in getting that Jesse Waters interview to you, but it was really interesting. Back a few weeks ago when we were all pushing to get the country open, and we wanted it open, and we, we've come a long way. We've learned a lot about it. There's a lot of talk now about hot spots, and a lot of people looking at Arizona and Texas and Florida, but they, the mainstream media wanted this to, wanted it to look like they were hoping and praying that that all of those states and others would show signs of increased cases. Now, we are testing more. The president says we're testing more, so we're going to find more cases. The data in Texas says that most of the people getting the COVID-19 now are younger people, and there's far fewer deaths. The death rate keeps going down. So, you know, we've got to press on ahead and keep going and get this country open. And we have lived with all kinds of diseases before, and we've never shut the country down for anything. So just keep that in mind, and we need to press on. So I'm going to switch over to my LA office here, and here I am talking to you folks. And we got a great video here now with Bill Still, who plays a piece from Fox News, an interview by Laura Ingraham. And she's asking about the increased cases and what's really going on. And she states a lot of the facts I just relayed to you. So I'm going to start this video now, and Mr. Still will take it away and introduce Laura Ingraham, and we'll get it going here in a couple of seconds.
Laura Ingraham did a wonderful segment on the so-called fearsome second wave of the double death virus from hell, COVID-19.
In other areas of the country, we're now seeing a disturbing surge of infections that looks like it's a combination, but one of the things is an increase in community spread. And that's something that I'm really quite concerned about.
But what about the surge in infections that Dr. Fauci is so worried about? Texas is one of those states where positive COVID cases are climbing, along with some hospitalizations, which have doubled since the beginning of June. However, the hospitalization rate for COVID cases has remained virtually unchanged during that time, about 8.6%. Now, Florida has seen a massive increase in its daily COVID case count and hospital admissions, including among young people. Joining me now is Dr. Harvey Risch, epidemiology professor at the Yale School of Public Health. Dr. Risch, we're seeing some of these spikes in hospitalizations in some states and some sections, but the cases are less severe, and the death rate has been gradually declining, now at about, I think, a month and a half low. What's going on here?
Good evening, Laura. So I think what is happening is that all of these patterns take about 4 or 5 weeks from when the behaviors that underlie them until we can measure them, until we can observe them in the counts of the various numbers. And so what's happened with the reopenings is that many places young people have not taken the masking and the distancing seriously. They've been congregating, and the case numbers have been going up in those states that we've seen in Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, and so on.
There is a man-created problem behind this second wave of the double death virus from hell. The public has been fooled into believing that they can simply avoid the virus. Not true. Those who are practicing medicine to maximize their income instead of maximizing their value to their fellow humans as a whole are sending humanity down a hellish pipeline of ever-increasing viral avoidance methods. God gave us an immune system which, to paraphrase Dr. A.T. Still, founder of osteopathy, is the world's most perfect drug manufacturing center. What Dr. Faustus and company are trying to do is to replace the human immune system with an artificial one from which they alone can profit. So they have convinced the mask wearers to hide in their lockdown houses, in their lockdown towns, and even destroy their lockdown national economies. The result? They deprive their own God-given immune drug manufacturing center of the ability to be infected with small amounts of the double death virus from hell. This is known in medical circles as a low viral load infection. When people circulate normally in the population, as in their churches, they shake hands, they hug each other, and this is the most healthy, natural behavior of all. Much better than taking a $4,500 drug that is only 65% effective. Thus, we exchange small bits of every virus out there in the human herd. Our immune system sniffs out the new ones it has never seen before, and therefore has time to create antibodies which can naturally kill the new virus before the immune system gets hit with a huge exposure, a heavy viral load that can kill the body before the immune system can catch up. These are the people that end up in hospitals. If they are older, their immune functions are naturally weaker, and so they get sicker. What can we do for them? Probably this viral avoidance advice is good advice, at least until this version of the flu passes. But for the rest of us, the most ridiculous thing Dr. Faustus ever said was that shaking hands is obsolete. We say shaking hands and hugging each other regularly is the only true path to maximizing natural health and longevity. The masked ones will always be dependent on their medical government to supply a new and ever more costly vaccine and/or artificial chemical remedies. So the bottom line is, yes, if you have been wearing the mask and hiding in your home, when you do return to the natural world, which is seething with viruses, you are going to catch one or more of them. And the longer you play this non-natural game, the more damaging the consequences, not only to yourself, but to all humanity.
But they are people who are at low risk, and so they're not being hospitalized because they can survive as outpatients perfectly well with virtually no treatment on the average. What happens then is, after 4 or 5 weeks, those people start to spread it to older people because it's hard to stay out of contact with more or less the rest of the community. And so eventually what's going to happen is more of the higher risk people will begin to get affected, and you'll begin to see more hospitalizations. But for now, places that have opened, the hospitalizations have still been pretty stable.
Yeah,
places in the Northeast.
Yeah, Alabama, for instance, which is one of the earliest states to open, has not seen an increase significantly of hospitalization, and their death rate has just gone way down since the very beginning. But Dr. Fauci and some of his friends are reiterating, Dr. Risch, predictions of a second wave. Watch.
There certainly will be coronavirus infections in the fall and winter because the virus is not going to disappear.
One, to make it clear, we are going to experience significant coronavirus infection in the fall and winter.
No kidding, Sherlock. You've been telling the entire world to take the unprecedented step of hiding from normal low viral exposures for the last 6 months, even through the warm months when the virus is weakest. Of course, you're going to get a second wave of heavy infections when it gets cold. That new Swiss study, see still report number 3101, says that the herd immunity of the human race for the COVID-19 flu is now about 60%. That leaves 40% to go. This is a nasty version of the flu, but it's just the flu. You're probably going to get it, so why not go out and get a little exposure to the low-dose load version while the virus is weak because the weather is warm and your natural immune system is at its strongest. Telling the public to wear masks in summertime and social distance to avoid all possible exposure to the mildest possible version of the virus is crazy talk. And here is why Dr. Faustus and company hate the legacy drugs, not only hydroxychloroquine and zinc, but ivermectin, and now even the common steroid dextromethasone. All have been proved to be effective at holding down the virus until your immune system can catch up. See the links below for the spelling of these 3 drugs. Do an internet search on these drugs and studies on COVID-19. See for yourselves. All 3 of these legacy drugs are safe and have major studies proving their effectiveness against the COVID-19 virus in the last few months. They all are currently available by an inexpensive prescription from your physician and are even over-the-counter medications in some countries. But beware, the FDA still wants to funnel you to the super expensive remdesivir, which was so ineffective that the mainline study on it was stopped in midstream.
Well, other experts say the virus is attenuating. It's changing in severity from Italian experts to other doctors here in the United States. Dr. Risch, is it a foregone conclusion that there is a second wave in the United States, given what happened with SARS?
I think it's not foregone. I think it's possible, if not likely. But I think the difference is going to be that if this second wave is largely of young people as it's progressing now, then it might not matter that much. What matters is the hospitalizations and the deaths. Really, it doesn't matter if it's an influenza-like illness where people just get sick and they don't die, although influenza can be serious. But if it's mostly just inconvenience and discomfort, then people get through it and move on. But if the hospitalizations stay down and the deaths stay down, then why should we worry whether we're having more cases?
And of course, the ICU beds seem fine and overwhelmingly across the United States, not in danger of overwhelming them. This is what the FDA commissioner said about hydroxychloroquine today, Dr. Risch.
I can refer the committee to several documents that we have put out over the last several weeks regarding hydroxychloroquine. With respect to the issues, we issued a safety alert, particularly around the combination of hydroxychloroquine with other drugs that might affect the heart.
Dr. Risch, you've looked at the data very quickly. What are you seeing? Very quick.
I think that's an overreaction. I think they need to consider the large-scale, multiple hundreds of thousands of people who've taken it safely.
They need to consider multiple hundreds of thousands of people who have taken it safely, according to Dr. Harvey Rice of the Yale School of Public Health. I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of American freedom. Good day. Just a quick...
Okay, thank you, Bill. That was good, and that was current. That was I think that was an interview that was done last night or the night before. So anyway, the hydroxychloroquine question. They just don't want to really give the right, the answer, and they don't want to support President Trump's talking about hydroxychloroquine and what the hell do you have to lose, right? If hydroxychloroquine is used with zinc in the early stages of the Chinese virus, this COVID-19, they got so many, like President says, they got so many names for it, I can't keep track of it, but we like calling it the Chinese Wuhan virus. And, hydroxychloroquine and zinc across the world, there's many doctors who've used it successfully. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that have not had any side effects from hydroxychloroquine. So, it's really amazing, some of these folks, the way they carry on about this stuff. Anyway, that's the deep state, right? We're talking about the deep state here. So, don't know if you heard one more little tidbit. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Donald Trump today. I'm going back to the other camera now. And they said that they upheld President Trump's deportation rules. They don't have to have a hearing before they can deport people. So, and that's a good thing. So, another feather in President Trump's cap. So just want to remind you, remember we have these cards to address to voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. We'd love you to help us address these cards, and we'll send them back to Tea Party Patriots, and they will mail them out at strategic times. But it'll have a personal message on it from you to these folks in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These are people who voted in 2016 for President Trump, but had not voted in several cycles of previous elections. So it's very important. These are very important folks. So this is why President Trump is your president, because they did vote in 2016. So anyway, that's all we got for tonight. Short show. We will be back next week, and I hope you all take care, be safe, And you know, in this little town of Sahuarita, it gets hot here, and people are staying indoors anyway. But you know, stay busy, keep improving yourself, learning things, reading books. You know, it's an opportunity to improve yourself. So take advantage of it. We love you all, and you take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Good night.